see from this is, and just my own personal experience, is that we are becoming a more multi-sensory society, and we're becoming more diverse from a ethnic and population standpoint. And those two factors, in my mind, in common, require a change in the nature of the kind of experience that we bring to people. If my expectation is, and I'm becoming more acculturated to a multi-sensory experience, then we have a responsibility as a provider, a supplier in this field, to find ways to provide that more multi-visual, multi-sensory experience.
So
what I do understand is there's an issue or a problem here in my mind. And I think that it requires effort of board, staff, musicians, music directors, soloists, experts in terms of how people are engaged to work together to find
So I
this.
understand your caution.
Yeah.
On the other hand, I would have to say, as somebody listening to this, that when you propound as strong a problem like that, you say, here we have a really huge problem that has to be addressed. Someplace pretty soon after the question is asked, somebody has to start suggesting answers. So in the orchestras you've worked with, does this get discussed? And do people come up with ideas?
Yes, I think it's getting more discussed. I think that work that the Orchestra Forum has done around the concept called entry points, that is how we increase receptivity of audiences to a classical music experience, is being discussed more and more. Again, I think that all the orchestras that I have worked with around these topics are struggling with this, because I don't think anybody wants to go to where you suggested mood lighting and screens and fireworks.
Well, you know, I suggested those things because they're talked about a lot,
Yeah,
and
that's
sometimes
right.
people do them.
What, you know, I reached a couple of conclusions when I looked at some of the work, and I think the Knight Foundation funded a number of experiments in the industry. Is that correct?
Yes.
You know, and I looked at that and I say to myself, you know, if I'm in the industrial world and we have a new product launch, we might project a 3 to 5 year startup.
Oh, yeah. Now.
And so I look at that, and people in this field say, well, gee whiz, if it didn't succeed after 3 tries.
And 3 tries, they're lucky if they give it 3 tries.
Right.
Now, you mentioned the Knight Foundation project. This was called The Magic of Music. It existed over 10 years, and there's a final report, something with a title that includes the phrase shining eyes, that you can read on their website.
Right.
And the fault of this report, to me, is that it doesn't substantiate its conclusion. Its conclusion is, oh, look, they tried all these different things and none of them worked.
Exactly.
So, none of these things was tried for very long.
Right.
As usual, and I'm sorry, this is as usual in my experience of this orchestra world that we are talking about, they try something that seems very bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and promising, and after a couple of years it turns out to cost more money than it makes, and you can't judge any tangible result from it. That is, more people are buying tickets to your regular concert.
But let's understand, let me just speak to a couple of things you said.
Yeah.
One, it's very hard. No one ran an experiment. Let's start there.
No, nobody did that.
No one ran an experiment, because at the same time these things were being tried, ticket prices were increasing, other things were going on, which we know have an impact on the number of subscribers. So I can't say that a true experiment was run here. You know, over the years, my wife and I have attended opera for, you know, on and off for a long time, and his super titles and his, you know, his titles behind seats, were those gained high receptivity the first day it happened?
No.
No.
But in the longer run, it's been fabulous.
It's been fabulous. It's been fabulous. And it creates a connection of me as a patron of the art to the art. And it answers questions that I couldn't have answered before very easily without a lot more work. And most of us aren't willing to put that work in. So I come back to the classical music field and I say to myself, how do I know, based on the experimentation I've heard about, or the testing of ideas, because I think it was testing, that those will or will not work? I don't think we know.
We don't, and the testing is almost never done.
Right.
The ideas are tried, somebody believes in them deeply, they go and do it, but they haven't, for example, talked to people in the audience beforehand to see what their reaction is likely to be. You don't have a real product launch.
I have asked with the orchestras that I work with how often they engage with their patrons and their non-patrons around understanding them. And the answer I invariably get is, we ran a focus group 2 years ago with 12 people, or we ran 2 or 3 focus groups. And I say to them, again, coming from the world I live in most of the time, we're engaging with customers every day. We are asking questions every day. We are doing customer surveys every day. We want to know how the customer's view about our products are trending, because we want to be able to spot problems before they become so serious we can't do much about them. In this industry, we engage a few people at a time. We primarily ask questions of those who love us.
And then, by the way, we pat ourselves on the back because the survey shows that people love us.
Right. And the problem is the data shows that they're leaving in droves.
Yeah.
And so I look at that, and I've said to a number of the orchestras with which I work, why don't you have focus groups done by your employees? Forget about the outside consultants. Call people up, ask them if they will meet with you at the end of the concert or before, or both, every concert, and have discussions with them about their experience. You can stratify that. You can have some people who are single ticket purchasers. You can have people who have subscribed 1 or 2 years. Some people who have been there 10 years. You could do this on an ongoing basis, and as a result of that, you would have much better intelligence and be better informed about what people think.
You know, in order to do that, I'm certainly not saying you're wrong. I would support that 1,000%. In order to do it, you have to know how to do it. Now, an orchestra that you and I know has done some work with having discussions after concerts involving members of the audience. My perception is that they started off really well. They were kind of hot. They were promising. The people in the audience really loved having the conversations. But after a while, as it became more the usual thing and less the new and unexpected thing, it just became a comfortable little thing for the same people, more or less, every time to come back and schmooze after the concert. The orchestra didn't strategize it as a long-range plan to get information and build a relationship.
Right.
They really didn't know where they wanted to go.
What you're describing is a failure in implementing this effectively.
Yes, because it really wasn't strategized right in the first. And also, but to be fair, the orchestra doesn't have people who are even used to thinking about this, let alone doing it.
That's true. But we do have, this industry has extremely bright people in the staff areas and musicians, extremely bright, and board members.
Although their time is a problem. They are working, to about 110% of their capacity anyway.
This is a classic problem that I think we see in organizations in general. When people are operating out of incomplete information, out of faulty assumptions and beliefs, they create work for themselves, because they end up chasing activities and executing tasks that they shouldn't be doing in the first place. So I guess what I would say is that, yes, people are stressed and many people in this field are overworked, but part of the reason for that is not just staffing. It's that there is not the kind of focus and understanding of what they're trying